Welcome to the International School of Tailoring. My name is Reza and this is going to be your 23rd lesson of our How to Make a Bespoke Jacket series. In the previous lesson, we learned about the simulation of gravity and the canvassing of a forepart regardless of its style or construction. In this lesson, we're going to canvas our traditional model for a based fitting. Now, the canvassing that we're going to do on a finished jacket is going to be slightly different. It's going to have a few extra steps, but we're not there yet. First, I want you to learn how to canvas for a based fitting. If you haven't seen the previous lessons on canvassing theory or general canvassing, please do so. You'll save yourself months of confusion. So, this is what we're going to do. First, we're going to prepare the forepart by pressing it along with the canvas. Then we're going to divide our forepart into the different sections, and last but not least, we're going to baste the fabric to the canvas. Are you ready? Let's go. Okay, so the way we're going to do this is that I'm going to show you how to canvas one side, and then I'm going to do everything I did on the other side. Okay, that should allow you to follow through everything step by step and then do it at your own pace. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to press everything. I recommend you use a spray bottle, not the steam. Steam is not going to shrink anything. We have already soaked our canvas, but just to be absolutely sure, we're going to spray our canvas one more time and dry it off with our iron. At the same time, we're going to take all the wrinkles and creases out of our canvas, and that should prepare our canvas for the next step. So let's go ahead and do that. The first thing we do is we're going to first apply some heat. Then we're going to apply some moisture. The heat allows the moisture to be absorbed a lot quicker and easier. And then we're going to go over it one more time. Get the shape of the dart out of the way. And the same goes for the shoulder wedge. Whatever you do, just do not press the chest flat. All I'm doing is simply moving things around. Do the same thing from behind. And once you're done, your canvas should look something like this. We have our shoulder wedge, we have a little bit of shape in the chest, and we have the length that is caused by the dart. So that's that. Let's do the fabric now. Wrong side up, simulate gravity in the middle, clear the front edge and press. Now, if you're using a cotton or linen, I highly recommend you do not use any moisture for pressing the dart. However, because this is a practice jacket and it may be a little bit difficult for you to get this completely flat, please feel free to use some moisture because I want you to be able to assess this as accurately as you can. Once you've got some experience and you gain a little bit more knowledge and you get a good feel for it, then please do this without any moisture on the dart until you're finishing the jacket. So completely flatten this dart at the bottom, but do not flatten the length that you have on the side of the dart. You can go a little bit into the chest, but again, do not flatten it. You see, when I go towards the chest, it lifts up. Do not flatten it by going all the way to the edge. Simply move it around as we did with the canvas. Once you're done, your fabric should look something like this. We have a little bit of a chest and we have some length next to the dart. You can do a top press on the dart if you wish for a crisper look. Obviously, whenever you're top pressing, use a pressing cloth. I'm not using it so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. And that's it. So now it's time to split the forepart into the different sections. Simulate gravity, clear the front edge, allow everything to go to the side, keep your chest there. Grab your L square or any other ruler, and the first thing that we're going to mark is our break line. Now, knowing that this L square is 1.25 inches, I can align this edge with the neck point. Then the other edge is going to be 1.25 inches over, and then this can simply go to my first button, which is going to mark my break line. Now, here's the thing. This may be a little bit off. It's okay if it's off. When you simulate gravity, as I've already explained, Just let it be as it is. Do not try to push anything inwards like that, okay? So, simulate gravity, clear, mark your brake line. I'm marking a little bit firmer so that you can see what I'm doing. I do not recommend you mark too firmly. Just do it lightly. Now, the next thing we're going to do is to separate the shoulder from the body. 5/8 below your gorge, that's about 1.5 centimeter. 2 inches, quick measure, use your finger. That's 5 centimeters. Around the armhole, curve this point into the markings that you just made, like so. And now you've separated the shoulder from the rest of the body. Go straight up from the dart, go straight down from the dart following the grain. And now we have split the forepart in two. Now it's time to mark the front edge. 5/8, that's 1.5 centimeter. Away from the front edge, start at the top, move down and follow the front edge mark stitches parallel all the way down until you reach the curve. At the curve, simply follow the curve and go all the way to the side, like so. Okay, that's that. Now it's time to pin. Take your canvas, simulate gravity, clear your front edge. Your canvas should have the chest, the shoulder wedge, and the extra length that we have on the side. Next, take your forepart, flip the side over, align the sewing line of your dart at the intake point with the intake point and center of the dart on your canvas. Careful as you're aligning the center upwards, you're not pulling the fabric. Just gently allow it to roll down, like so. Okay? Fingers on, flip side over, fingers in front, pin. Top of the dart, dart intake. Try to pin a little bit in front of it so that you don't go through all the bulk that is right here. So once you've done that, it's time to pin the button. Simulate gravity, check your button mark. You should be able to bring your button mark on the canvas button mark and put a pin in there. Pin in the inlay area. Now flip the fabric over. Be careful that you're not pulling this so far up for this to distort. Flip the fabric over, allow the canvas to roll down and give it a brush, okay? So that's set. You're going to do the same thing with the fabric. Carefully bring the fabric down. Your focus is on the front edge. Give it a brush and that should set it. Now, whatever I'm doing, nothing moves again, all right? Pin the bottom of the dart, the middle of the front edge, the bottom of the front edge, your basting line all the way down on the inlay of the hem. And now it's time to mark the top of the break line. Simply match your break line on the canvas with the break line of your fabric. Do not think of anything that's happening here yet. Everything is flat. All right, pin. Lift your fabric up and match the break line in the middle with the break line that you have on your canvas. Put a pin there and that's it. Now it's time to pin the sides. Simply simulate gravity carefully. Clear downwards. You don't want to clear upwards if your pins are facing downwards, okay? Now, brush across and put a pin right underneath the cut that you have on your canvas. So that's going to be here, like so. Then move all the length that you have on the side by flattening the canvas like this to the front. Once you've done that and the sides are flat, brush up so that your fabric grain is matching the grain of your canvas. Once you've done that, put your finger on the top of the dart or on the pin that you have in front of it and clear over. You see, when I'm pulling, the fabric has some give, but at some point it stops. Look at that. You see? Brush up, clear until the fabric stops. Put a pin right there. So that's it. You may have a little bit of a somewhat diagonal drag going on there, but that's absolutely fine. Now that we know where our canvas is going to be, we can mark our third line. So let's go ahead and do that. 5/8, that's 1.5 centimeters in front of your mark stitches. Mark a line downwards so that you're covering your canvas, and then simply curve in and follow your canvas all the way down. Now, you should be at least 5/8, that's 1.5 centimeters inwards. So don't mark your line right on the edge of the canvas. Because remember, we're going to baste the fabric to the canvas. Mark straight down, and that is our third line. It's time to assess everything we've done. You can, if you want, put an additional pin by lifting up the chest, flattening the top, and then pulling this area a little bit inwards. How much? Well, here's the thing. You're going to look at your wedge and you're going to pull until you have roughly the same amount. So your fabric should be able to lay on your canvas without any gaps between it, okay? Usually that's going to be 5 millimeters or 1/4. Put a pin there and that's it. Now, you don't have to do this because we're not going to baste from anywhere here yet, but this should at least give you the confidence that you have accommodated for the wedge that we're going to have in our shoulder. All right, so let's pick this up and assess. Watch carefully. I want you to compare everything you have with what I have here. So grab your forepart around the neck inlay area and hold it up like this. Now, the first thing that we're going to look at is going to be the grain of our fabric. The grain of your fabric should run smoothly and straight from the top to the bottom. No distortions, with only one exception. That's going to be the area in front of the wedge. There, because of the pin that we put there and the pulling that we did, your grain should be slightly moving towards the lapel. So the next thing is going to be the shock. Give your canvas a shock and see if your forepart is doing the same thing as my forepart. The fabric and the canvas should be moving as one. After that, it's time to do a twisting motion. So simply move your canvas in a twist like this and see what happens in the front edge. Do you see anything breaking in a weird way? Unnatural movements? Is it the same as what I have here? Then that's good. Now, we're going to bend the chest in our hands and slowly move downwards on the front edge. Is everything curving and moving as one? Do you feel any resistance? Do you feel any bubbles? Anything breaking? Is it visually looking the same as what I have right here? If so, great stuff. The next thing is going to be the fabric on the side. Do you have any surplus trapped above the cut of your canvas? Move your hands over it and see if everything is smooth. If you have nothing that is trapped right here, that's good. If you have some fabric trapped here, simply pin this a little bit higher, move the fabric up, and that should clear that, okay? Now, let's look at the canvas from behind. So, whenever you look at the canvas from behind, this should be all smooth. You should be able to bend the front edge, do this, and nothing should be bubbling up or pulling, okay? So if that's all clear, then we're ready to baste our canvas. Before we baste, we have to mark one more line, which I haven't marked yet because we have been pulling the front of our break line and that would have distorted the line. And that's going to be the line behind our break line. So grab your ruler, simulate gravity, and mark 5/8, that's 1.5 centimeters behind your break line. Once you've done that, we're ready to baste. Thread your needle, lift up the chest, and allow this upper part to be flat. Then start basting on your center line, right where the shoulder and the body separate. Not at the end, big back tack, 1 is enough. So, stitch length 1 inch, that's 2.5 centimeters. Bite size about a good 1/4. All right? All the way down, we're going to baste in front of the dart when we get to it. But for now, let's keep the chest up and move downwards. When you reach the chest, simply move it over, like so, and continue. In front of your dart, you're going to reduce your stitch length to 1/4. So your stitch length should be the same size as your bite size. If a pin is in your way, simply take it out. Once you reach the bottom of the dart, you can go back to your normal stitch length of 1 inch. Back tack twice with a big bite, and that's it. Now, You may notice that I've basted slightly in front of my chalk line. That's because if I would move over to my chalk line, my basting wouldn't look as straight. So I've just continued the same line. Now let's do the next line, which is going to be the line behind the break line. Grab your block or a brush or something that allows you to elevate your canvas. Position the dart somewhat between the block and the board, so it should be up in the air. Do not create a square shape like this, all right? Just have it smoothly against the block while you're simulating gravity. Now, we're going to start right in the area where the shoulder is separated from the body. Do not take any pins out yet. Big bite, back tack, and your stitch length is going to be 1/2 inch, okay? So, as you're basting, you're just going to pull this and allow this to lay flat. If, for whatever reason, you do this and your fabric is trapped behind the pin, simply take the pin out. But do not do that with the pin that is in front of the wedge. That's the one that we pulled over. Now, when you're midway your intake point and the top point of your dart, that's right here, you're going to remove the block. Remove these pins as well, because you've already done your basting there. And position the forepart so that the chest can lay naturally as it is. Don't try to build up a chest like this. That's just silly. Just simulate gravity, but don't allow this to completely flatten. Just allow the chest to be slightly elevated like this. Remove the pin that you have in front of your button. Double check if everything is okay, and then continue with the same stitch length. You can take the pins out on your front edge and continue basting downwards. Do not brush over, do not brush down, don't do any of that. Just simply simulate gravity. That's it. Do your basting. Baste all the way to the edge of your bottom. Back tack twice. Cut your thread. That's it. Now, time to do the third line. You should not have taken out the pin that is holding what we have pulled. You see that little bubble there? That should be there, okay? I've added an extra pin right here for when I was picking it up so that it wouldn't flap around. If you haven't put a pin there, that's fine. Just make sure that the shoulder area is laying flat and the shoulder of the fabric is doing the same thing. If you see a gap between your canvas and your fabric, simply pinch the fabric against the canvas. Make sure everything is flat and then start your basting. And start right where your previous line began. 1/2 inch stitch length. And now, once you reach the center of your forepart, grab your block, get this side flat, and continue basting. Back tack once, back tack again. And now you can remove the block, flatten the sides, bring all the length to the front, like so. If you get a bubble here and it's annoying you, just take your iron, careful that you don't have any pins there, and flatten it. That is okay to do for a based fitting. When we are finishing our jacket, we will have a cut here and we won't have a pleat and it's all going to lay flat. Once you've reached your cut, you can go back to your 1 inch stitch length. No tight bastings, back tack twice. That's it, your canvassing is done. Now, remove your pins, including the one in front of the wedge, and start assessing your canvas. Before we hold it up, the one thing you may be wondering is why are we so specific about these stitch lengths? The reason for that is some areas are going to have a lot more pressure and tension put on them. Those areas are the area behind the break line, the area in front of the front edge, and the dart and around the armhole. We're going to put sleeves in here, so that's going to be a lot of fiddling around. We're not going to do much in this area, so these bastings can be a little bit bigger. But we're going to do quite a lot here, quite a lot here, quite a lot here. Now it's time to press our canvas and then lift it up and see how it looks. So let's do that. First, we're going to press from behind. Careful not to crease your fabric in the areas where you haven't basted it down. If you have to use the block, please feel free to do so. Now it's time to do some top pressing. Remove the block, take your ham or your sleeve board. It's going to be very similar. Position the forepart so that half of the forepart is right on the edge of your ham or your sleeve board. Lay this area flat, of course, with a pressing cloth. Put some moisture and press. Now, again, I have to say this. If you're working for yourself and you're working on a cotton or linen, do not use moisture for based fittings. Only use it if you're finishing the garment. The reason why I'm using moisture now is so that you know how to assess this with the right look on your fabric. It may be that the fabric is not creasing well without the moisture, so that's why. Slowly move over to the front, press the front. Now don't be afraid if you see your fabric turning into a different color. That's just temporarily because of the heat. Then we're going to bring this right in the middle, at the top of the ham, and we're going to press on top of it. After that, if you have a ham with a shape like this, turn the ham over with the pointy side towards the armhole, position the front edge right on top of the ham, mist, press. Then we're going to do the side. And that's it. Let's pick it up. All right, we're going to do this again together. Grab your canvas from the neck point inlay area and hold it up. Now that you've pressed everything and basted it, it should all look very smooth. We don't have those pins anymore that cause those small puckers around them. So hold it up, look at your grain. Is it running straight from the top to the bottom? Yes, good. Do you see that bending towards the lapel because of that pull? Yes, good. Now let's do the shock. Compare your results with mine. You can see that the canvas is dictating the fabric and it all is moving like one. It's kind of like somewhat rigid. Twisting motion. Anything out of the ordinary? Do you see the fabric moving separately from the canvas? No? Good. Now, let's break it in our hands. Just bend it around. Feel. Any bubbles in the canvas? Any breaks? Anything that's out of the ordinary? Nothing? Is it all smooth? Does it visually look the same? Yes? Great stuff. Now, time to look at the sides. Just run your hands over the sides and see if you have any surplus fabric here. You should not have anything. No diagonal drags, nothing. No pulls. It's all smooth. Yeah? Great stuff. Now, we haven't applied that bubble in the front edge, so we don't have that relative layer length going on yet. But despite that, we should still have a natural curve inwards, okay? So if you look at the canvas from the back, you should be able to bend the front edge inwards without any bubbles in your canvas going horizontally or vertically, okay? Just compare. That's it. Now, if your canvas looks exactly the same like what I have here, it's time to trim around the inlays and do exactly the same thing with the other one. All right, let's do this. Now, before I trim these inlays, one of the things that I would like to highlight is for you to notice how much this all has changed. If you remember, when we cut out our canvas, we added about 1/2 inch all around. Now look how much difference there is. You would think that theoretically everything should still be perfectly in place, but things do move around, which is why we need all these inlays during the makeup. Our materials are organic, so they're kind of like alive. Now let's take the pin out and cut the inlay. Trim everything net to the edge of your fabric. Now move your wedge over so that everything is right here and this area is flat, and cut again. Do not cut the side. We're going to need this side, okay? But while you're at it, please do trim all the fraying edges that you have to prevent any further fraying. That's it. That is the canvassing of your forepart. Now, what I want you to do is to treat this as precious from now on. So don't just curl it up and just put it somewhere, okay? Treat it with respect. Bring this up, fold it over, put it next to your board, or maybe hang this up from your clipper, or bend this over on a hanger and treat it just very gently. Don't flatten it, don't do anything else with it. If you really have to kind of like put it somewhere and you can't hang it or whatsoever, all you have to do is to simply fold it in the middle and then roll it up, allow the excess length that is created to move out and put it to side, okay? Now I'm going to do exactly the same with the other forepart and then we're done. If what you have looks like this, congratulations, you've done a good job on canvassing your forepart and you're ready to take it to the next stage. You're starting to get a glimpse of what your jacket is going to look like, and it's going to be an incredibly rewarding part of the coat making process. I know it may be a bit slow and a bit frustrating, sometimes even annoying as you're trying to memorize all the steps, compare your results with mine, but soon you'll be able to enjoy it a lot. Now, if you're struggling with a few mistakes here and there while you're comparing your work with mine, please go back to our previous lesson in which I cover some of the most common mistakes that apprentices make when they're going through the canvassing process. That should help you a lot. You know, it takes an average apprentice a few months, if not years, to fully grasp the concept of canvassing. I've tried to break everything down for you in a few lessons, so please don't skip them. You'll be betraying yourself. For best evaluation results, follow these lessons with materials that are very similar to the ones that I'm using. Don't just jump onto a velvet or a heavy thick boucle. To help you with this, we have created a bundle for each model which you can easily get from our website. We ship to almost every country in the world to help as many of you as possible. Simply click on the link in the description of this video and equip yourself with a bundle. It'll be worth it. My name is Reza, this was today's lesson, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care. So, this is what we're going to do. First, we're going to press the canvas and